Friends, I have a special guest, another YouTuber, wzrubicon. Hello and welcome. How are you?
Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on?
Not much. Not much. I thought maybe some of your followers might miss you, so we'd have a conversation so that they don't start jonesing and having withdrawals because you got put in YouTube timeout.
Oh, okay. I'll try to keep it clean. YouTube doesn't give you anything specific as far as what you did. They just send you a generalized email telling you that you, in my case, posted a video that was considered to be hate speech against one group or another. They never tell you exactly what was the content that was hate speech. And in my case, the video, the title was, if I remember right, it's not okay to commit acts of violence against Caucasian kids. And at one point in the video, I specifically said that acts of violence against anybody are unacceptable. And so I don't know where the hate speech came in. Don't remember doing anything hate speech. I did quote some statistics as far as some other races, crime rates, and personal experiences with other races, crime rates. But hey, YouTube never tells anybody anything about what they violated. They just send you a generalized email and remove your video. And you can appeal all day long, but rarely does it ever work unless you've got 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, and then of course you get big enough to at least get them put back on.
Well, how many more days do you have left before you can post?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe Monday or Tuesday, but I'm not sure how long it is. If you're if you have one strike the second time around, it may be February before I can post again. I don't know.
That'll be depressing, won't it?
I get a rest up.
All right, so you make a lot of videos, and they're mostly about helping young people, right?
Yeah. I'd like to leave the young people with the world.
Yeah, and this generation is so lost because my generation really screwed up. We didn't teach our kids anything. I'm sorry, everybody. As a Gen Xer, I apologize for the millennials and Zoomers. It's my fault. It's my generation's fault.
No, it's not your guys' fault. It's the boomers' fault. Okay, boomer?
Okay, boomer. That's so funny. I watched that video and I thought, wow, this is so lame.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. You could tell that it wasn't done by a boomer.
Well, it wasn't even done by somebody who hates boomers. It was just dumb. I mean, there's so many things about boomers that you can pick on. At least it's fun. Boomers do so many funny little odd things. But anyway, so I was hoping to talk to you about how we've been sold down the river by our government.
Yeah, we've been sold down the river by our government, yeah. And I would further add to that we've sold ourselves down the river.
This is true. Well, we were conditioned into thinking that it was a good thing to give up our legacy and our heritage.
Yeah.
Isn't
it's
just a mess?
I agree.
That's just a mess. It's just, I do videos so people can unravel in their head how we've been manipulated. It's not like one group's fault that we have all these problems facing us. It's several generations, even the greatest generation, the generation that lived during the Great Depression, they don't even know that they're being manipulated.
Well, the manipulation actually began in the early 1900s and continued through to the beginnings of the Federal Reserve Bank, the IRS, but the Roaring 20s was when the United States and young people in the United States really started putting away their morals and values and started heading more towards entertainment and excesses. And the entertainment and excesses is something that was targeted, especially towards young people, because young people are easy to manipulate.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true because we just don't have or I'm not a young person, but I think back when I was younger, I didn't have the foundation underneath me that I have now to be able to resist the baloney.
Yeah, well, and yeah, they have targeted the young people, especially. They've targeted them to just be looking for the next, fun time. Next adrenaline rush, and that the government will do all the maintenance of everything for you, the maintenance of your life, the maintenance of living, the maintenance of working, the maintenance of paying for everything. Hey, go out and have a good time. We'll take care of everything. The only thing you got to do is if we're going to take care of everything, we need you to sign this sheet of paper here. Kind of like when you become a YouTube member or a Facebook member, and you have to sign their rules to, do their thing.
That's right.
That's kind of the way that people have gotten used to doing, and so they just expect the government to do it.
Yeah. And I told you that I was a nurse. When I started out in nursing, I took care of people who were born in the late 1800s. And I noticed that people who had been born about 1920, 1930 had a lot more anxiety, or people born after the 20s or 30s had a lot more anxiety than people who had been born in the 1800s.
Yeah, well, and I would agree with that assessment because of the people that came before the 1900s, the people that were living, working, and doing things, they didn't have all of the entertainment that we have nowadays, that the distractions that we have nowadays in their lives. They could get up in the morning and they went to work and they did their things and they worked around the house, and the focus was on the family and the people around them. The focus was on their family and their friends.
Right.
That was their world.
Right.
And nowadays, look at us. We're here having a conversation right now on YouTube, and we're 1,000, 1,200 miles away from each other.
Something like that. Yeah.
So we're having a conversation, whereas in those days, there was no TV, there was no radio, there was there was none of that stuff. Your world was your neighbors, and everybody was close, and if you needed something, your neighbors were the ones that helped you take care of it. That no longer exists. There is no safety net of neighbors and family and friends.
Yeah.
The people you call friends nowadays aren't even your friends.
So I think that our society has been ruined because we rely on the government to keep us safe rather than our family and friends. Especially like the welfare state. It used to be that people who couldn't take care of themselves and hadn't, they weren't old enough to save up for retirement or whatever, then their family would pick up that slack.
Yeah.
And now, because people can rely on the state, they can be jerks and then they alienate each other. And now people have all these mental health problems because they don't have the emotional, they don't have loved ones to hold them up in love and support, I guess you could say.
Sure. And I agree with that 100%. I have a saying that I've been saying now for about probably at least 15 years. I'm not going to go back and try to count where I started saying it at, but I've said forever that people aren't living longer; they're dying slower, and that is because of the fact that they're not in happy lives. They're on medication, and the medication keeps them living long after a naturally happy life would be. And most people, when they get into their 80s and 90s, you got no money, no life, no nothing, and no friends hanging around. Yeah, it's a very gloomy lifestyle. In the old days, you had your friends. Even when you were 80, that close-knit group of people around you, even your old friends, were still there. You would have people that were in your 80s, and of course, we all know that in a lot of big families, that families took care of each other. Grandparents eventually took care of kids and taught the kids, while the young parents were out working, supporting the families. The young men were working, and the mothers were doing their things, but that whole safety net is gone, and of course the safety net of learning is gone.
Mm-hmm.
The lessons that children no longer learn from the grandparents and elders are gone because there's nobody there to teach them. There's nobody there teaching them manners. There's nobody teaching them about life. There's nobody teaching them right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning all these things from video and from places like YouTube, from friends, from Twitter. Their entire wrong and right moral set of values is not coming from your family and your friends. It's coming from others who don't have your best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think that young people can do to regain that sense of community and family? What do you think they should do? Because a lot of people are just assholes these days, and it's just so hard to be around people because they are, they take the liberty to just to be jerks.
Well, you would have to, somehow or another, you would have to overcome the lifetime of brainwashing, which comes into some of my generation, some of your generation. What our problem is that we allowed too many strangers full access to our kids for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. We allowed strangers who are enemies to teach our children to have full access. In a lot of parents' cases, our children spent more time with strangers than they did with their family and friends, like what we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago. Go back in the past, and the kids virtually grew up with their moms, their dads, their grandparents. There was always somebody there to teach them morals and values. We started sending our kids to daycare, and then kindergarten, and then grade school, and all these people were taught by Marxists in colleges, and they're strangers, and they did not have a family and teaching kids morals and values in their best interest. So as far as what can we do to help them, it's going to take a concerted effort on the young people's behalf to stop blaming people and start doing something to fix their own lives, because you can sit there and you can say boomer this and boomer that and boomer this and even Generation X this and Generation X that, but it's not going to fix anything.
Right.
You're just throwing out words out there, and one of the things I always say is that the best you got. It's like today. I like to joke. I had a millennial anchor baby that they'd hired at the shop to try to train to be a body man's helper, and this guy quit. And he just said, I'm not cut out to be a body man.
Yeah.
He wasn't cut out to be a body man because this younger generation has there's a few of these young people that are really good, okay? They're hard workers, they have good memories. The biggest problem with these young people is they don't have memories, and they're not used to working things out in their head and doing rationalization of things, okay? Because everything that they do is an instant, basically instant access to them. Again, you want to know something, you just go on YouTube and you get an instant access to it, but that's because somebody else is doing it. You don't have to learn anything on your own. So
that's pretty big. That's really a huge deal. That is an enormous deal. Wow.
And you watch them, and you try to reason with them, and you try to figure out different ways. And it wasn't just this. I've had the pleasure of working in the last probably 6 years with about 10 different helpers, and each one of them uniquely have memory problems, and they have problems with being physically able to do the tasks that you give them. The thing that I find really, really weird, a lot of these kids are big. They're pretty good-sized kids. They look like they should be strong.
Yeah.
Okay? And yet, for all the look of being strong, they have no strength. Okay? They're weak. You know, it's like the muscle that they have is useless. And the same thing with the knowledge that they've been trained with, and trained with is a good reference. The knowledge that they've been trained with is pretty much useless.
Oh boy.
You know, they've been filled with useless information.
Yes. So I have a question. If somebody was willing, would you take a young person under your wing?
I always have. I even took, like, say, this. You know, I made a lot of jokes, but I took this anchor baby, this millennial anchor baby, and tried to teach them how to do these things. I'm very hands-on. I'm very, you know, right there, basically watching everything going through and trying to teach them, and very patiently, you know, allowing them to make the mistake 2 or 3 times. But when you start making the mistake 4 or 5 or 6 times, and you can see they're not really meaning to, it's just they can't understand a process, okay? And there's a process to everything. There's a way that, you know, steps you take something apart, steps you take to put something back together. There's steps that you have to do things. You can't just pile everything together and then expect that everything goes back together okay. And then go, okay, well, I don't remember where this goes, so I'm just going to throw it away. I'm not going to bother looking for, okay, where does this screw go? I don't know. Okay. But this all comes back to the fact that we've allowed, as older folks, we have allowed that kind of access to people who hated us. And I'm not saying baby boomers or anybody else. I'm talking about people who hated the American experience, people who hate Americans because for the longest time, Americans were successful. They were hardworking. They were God-fearing. You know, they had morals. They had values. Now, everybody always had divorces. There's always been affairs. You know, I'm not saying that everybody in America was, you know, this Bible-thumping good person, but the overall character of America was take care of business, you know, get it done, roll up your sleeves, work on it. But, you know, if a hurricane comes, don't call the government. Everybody got together, you know, drug all the junk out, saved what could be saved, and everybody started rebuilding their town. You know, the government didn't, you know, 150 years ago, the government did come in with FEMA. But the people around the world, the Marxists, they hated that about America, our moral strength.
All right, so we need to give these young people a starting point.
Starting point is listen.
Listen to who?
Don't always listen to anybody who has more knowledge to you on a subject.
Right.
Stop using search engines for your information.
Yeah.
Go talk to these old people that you hate so much. Yeah, if you have a person on your block, an old couple or an old person on your block, and you see them sitting out on the front porch or something like that, approach them, talk to them. Don't freaking attack them.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a whole lifetime of knowledge, and they've seen so much throughout their lives that they can teach you things. They can teach you things from a moral standpoint that you will never get from a school. And most books nowadays that people read are, even some of the classics have been re-edited so many times, they look nothing like the original copy. I'm going to leave you with one thing I want.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm ready.
No. You didn't ask me this question, so I'm going to answer your question for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you know, when you're talking about being sold down the river by the government, okay, we are the government, okay? The only problem is that we, as a people, have allowed ourselves to be removed from the government. America is not a democracy, okay? It is not mob rule. America is a republic. It is a set of rules that protects the majority from the minority and the minority from the majority. There's a set of rules and a set of laws. Okay? And a republic requires maintenance. Okay? It requires maintenance. It requires participation. It requires everybody to be involved. And when you're not involved, that's when you get the government taking over. They're taking that power. They'll take that power every time. But, you know, the problem is that we've gotten so conditioned to vacations, to having fun, to happy hour, to having football games. I mean, there's more people who will show up to watch a Super Bowl than there are people who will show up to vote. Okay? You know, and I'm not saying voting fixes anything, but I'm saying when you have more people around the country that will show up to watch a Super Bowl than who will participate and who is going to run their lives, you know, who's going to oversee their lives, you've given up that maintenance and you've decided, here you go. And that's one of the things on here that I was talking about, that if you allow the government to, they will become your kids' moms and dads. They will become your nanny. And once the baby boomers in that generation are gone, who are you going to find out what it's all about from? The government? The government never lies. The media never lies. The news never lies, right?
That's right.
All right. Anyways, it was nice talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Internet friends, thank you so much for listening. I look forward to your thoughts below.